So, are black people doomed? Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense, Logic, and Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So I've often heard people say that black folks or American blacks are lost. And specifically black conservatives, white people or non-blacks won't touch that with a 10-foot pole for fear of being called racist. Well, black conservatives, we don't give a damn. We just speak the truth on that. Now, as much as I don't like to believe that this is the case, I believe there's a lot that could be redeemed about blacks, American blacks. We saw this just past election. It said that 25% of black men voted for Donald Trump, which is a lot than which normally will vote for Republicans. It should have been way more, but you got to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. But Micaiah Montgomery, who's basically a GOP activist, she was on a panel with 4 other blacks, and one of the people on the panel brought up the 94 crime bill and talked about how it affected him.
But speaking on safety though, one of the things that I've heard a lot, right? So I'm a parent, of a 16-year-old daughter. My son is 9 years old. We're all parents on here. Trump's rhetoric is very dangerous for black people.
America
has the penalty to drug dealers.
all those drug dealers, cartel level drug dealers. Somebody selling nickel bags on the street is not going to get the death penalty. Well, he would not know.
Okay, to give full context of what was discussed here, because I love to give full context, not half context, but he brought up the 94 crime bill, talked about how it impacted him, and he brought up this idea, the notion of basically people receiving the death penalty for selling drugs. Now, Micaiah basically came in and gave a great answer to this. She pretty much answered it, but this whole talk about, she said that nobody's basically getting the death penalty for selling dime bags. And by the way, I've heard of dime bags before. Again, I've heard of this most of my life. Honestly, didn't know what a dime bag was because I'm just not involved in that lifestyle. So I looked it up, and basically a dime bag, for those people who don't know, is just basically a set measure of drugs for a set measure of price. Anyway, this man is, again, he's more concerned about if a black person could be sentenced to death for selling drugs, but he's not concerned about the fact that that person is selling drugs in the first place. A behavior that's very detrimental to the community, and a behavior by nature can lead to an early death. Now, I'm a huge fan of Tommy Sotomayor, and he says a lot of profound things. One of the most profound, I would say the most profound thing that Tommy's ever said is that niggas are stupid. And why? Because niggas are stupid. You mean to tell me this fool is concerned about if a person will be sentenced to death by the state, but he's not concerned if a male, a young black male, will be sentenced to death by niggas, which is something that's far more likely to happen if you partake in that behavior, that lifestyle. Now, there was a female on the panel, and she said something even worse.
If we're talking about the Central Park Five, blaming Trump for something that a white woman did, to blame Trump for something that a white woman caused, to blame Trump for being the reason why all of New York was mad at 5 young men because a white DA, Democratic DA at that, forced them into a false confession, is one of the things that is the reason why black folks aren't being taken seriously when we're having these conversations. Trump, first, the DA is who coerced them.
Which works with the police, right?
But you were about to vote for a Democratic DA who did the same thing to black men, and nobody saw it as an issue. Yet we bring up the Central Park Five that happened in the 80s, yet Kamala Harris was doing this in the 90s and 2000s.
But wasn't they, wrongfully accused? That came.
They were wrongfully accused, and Kamala Harris was wrongfully accused, and people were like, well,
She was Kamala had a job. That's a job as a DA.
So the white
So again, to give full context, the woman brought up the Central Park Five, and once again start with that condemning of Donald Trump about the Central Park Five. And again, McHale came in and pretty much dispelled that nonsense. Of course, it's more than likely to go in and out, in one ear and out the other. But this woman basically brought up how the DA got a false confession from the five boys. And McHale brought up the fact that, well, Kamala, whatever, was doing the same thing in California to black men. And it was even worse because Central Park 5 was just one case. Okay? Now, this woman said, well, Kamala was just doing her job. So the DA over the Central Park 5 wasn't just doing her job. Or I believe they say it's a woman. My God. I think Jesus listened to this and probably said, my God. And he is God. This woman cannot be that fucking stupid. But she is. And again, there'll be a lot of black people in their mind that will make that make sense. You have to be absolutely brainwashed by race to do so. When I say that black people are brainwashed and branded by race, I'm not just making this up. Here's your example right here. Perfect example of how black people are brainwashed by race. So brainwashed that they can't think straight. And this is really sad. I love black people. If this is what we are and this is what we're putting out there, we are doomed. And there's really no more else to be said about it. Anyway, y'all, like I said, I can't say any more on this. May God have mercy on us all. And it's always, until next time.